Hi again. Today we're going to start talking about compound interest. Not the most interesting stuff, but it might help you understand kind of financial applications a little bit better. We'll do this for a couple of days and you'll see a unit assignment to wrap up exponential unit pretty darn soon. I think on Friday. So here we go. Compound interest. First, you need to know what interest is. That's just money added to the bank account based on how much money is already there. So it's a percentage. Compound interest allows interest that was added to earn interest. So for example, if you start with $100, it pays 10% interest. After a year, say you'd have $110, but then the next year you'd earn 10% on your 110, which would be $11. Okay, so with compound interest, the amount of interest that's added just keeps increasing. Okay. Here's the formula we'll be dealing with, and it's just an exponential growth formula, but with some new terms. Okay, so this P used to be A naught, but it's the same thing. You just call it the principal. That's a financial term, but it does mean starting amount. Okay, we used to have a little R in here and called it a rate. We'll call it an I in financial stuff because it's the interest rate per compounding period. I'm going to explain that soon. N, the exponent, is the number of compounding periods. Today we're going to focus on I and N because they can be tricky to figure out. So we're going to take it slow. So all I need from you today is to understand how to get I and N. So let's get into that. Here are some terms you're going to need to know. Okay, so you can have different compounding periods. You can compound weekly, which is 52 times a year because it's 52 weeks. If you have a job, maybe you're paid bi-weekly, that's 26 times a year, so every second week. Myself, I'm paid semi-monthly, which means twice a month, which is 24 times a year. Okay, monthly, of course, will be 12 times a year. Quarterly is 4 times a year. The most common ones you're going to see are these two, because most bank accounts compound monthly. A lot of investments compound quarterly. Okay. You need to remember these numbers. I think monthly is no problem. Quarterly will probably be pretty easy to remember as well because there's 4 quarters in a whole. In this case, the whole is 1 year. All right. So here's what you got to be able to do, and it's not too bad. These are the types of questions you'll have to do today, and they're really not bad. I'll show you how it goes. So we're going to determine I, which you remember is the interest rate per compounding period. Oh, that should say per compounding period. Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, and N is the number of compounds. Okay, so this is what it could look like. I'll explain what this means. This is 8.5% slash A. That's how you'll see a lot of bank accounts advertise. It's 8.5% annually, so per year. All right, compounded monthly for 3 years. Okay, so tomorrow you'll have to do problems to actually calculate how much money would be in this account. All right, but for today, I just want us to figure out I and N so we'd be able to use our calculator to figure it out. So here's what you need to do to find I. It's the rate divided by the number of compounds per year. It has to be as a decimal though. I is a little trickier than N. Okay, so check this out. The rate is 8.5%, but I'm going to divide that by 100 to get a decimal. That's 0.085. Then I have to divide by the compounds per year. It's compounded monthly, just 12 compounds per year. That's what I equals. You can leave it like that, okay, when you're doing a big problem. But for today's assignment, I'm sure I'll have to just take it to the decimal. So let's see, 0.08. Oops, let me get out of here. 0.085 divided by 12. Okay, so 0.00708. We'll see. Okay, that's I. The rate as a decimal divided by how many times it gets compounded every year. Okay, to find N, it's the number of compounds per year times the number of years. N is usually pretty darn easy to figure out. Okay, so compounded monthly is 12 times per year. 3 years is like that. So N is just going to be 36. Okay, so I is always some weird decimal. N should be just a regular old number. Okay, so again, this is the interest rate per month, essentially, because it gets compounded monthly. All right, and this is how many compounding periods go by. It's the number of months in this question. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. It's always the same though. To find the I, you do the rate as a decimal, divide by the number of compounds per year. To find N, number of compounds per year times the number of years. So I've got another example for us to get through here. I'm going to say it's 11% annual, compounded quarterly for 6 years. Okay, so I, it's the rate as a decimal, so divided by 100, divided by how many times it gets compounded each year. Quarterly, I mentioned, will be pretty common in questions, and that's 4 times per year. So that's what that's going to look like. Okay. N is going to be how many times it gets compounded per year. Quarterly is 4 times the number of years, 6. We're done.